Okay, so let's finish this up with number 3. So on number 3, we want to list at least one pro and con for each of the numeral systems. And you can use Google if you get stuck. They typically will kind of tell you a little bit about each of these numeral systems and what were some pros and what were some cons. So a couple of mine, and this is not a complete list, and for the Egyptian numeral system, is that it's easy to use. I think it's easy to teach, and so it's simply easy to use. A con, though, is it's not very efficient. So if you notice, if you write down like 999, so if you think about how you have to write that down, you're going to have to write down a lot of different symbols. So if you come back up here and take a look at the different Egyptian numerals, 999, you have to write 9 squirrels, 9 heel bones, 9 vertical staffs. So it's not a very efficient process. So let's write down, con, not very. Okay, so for the Babylonian system now, what are possible pros? Well, there's just 2 symbols. Right, so 2 symbols. That's definitely a pro. It's easy to express every numeral because there's just 2 things you have to, in a sense, remember. Right, so 2 different marks you have to make again and again. So the cons, well, same thing, right? Because there's only 2 symbols, sometimes you have to make a lot of marks. So like it's a little bit tedious sometimes. So again, it's tedious to do sometimes. Alright, so now the Greek. Well, let's see, a possible pro for the Greek. Well, the fact that they use their alphabet as their numeral system is kind of a pro because you don't really have to memorize any new symbols. So, the fact that it's an alphabet, that's their alphabet, is I would consider a pro. So let's write it is the same as their alphabet. Okay. Well, a con actually is sort of the opposite here. There's, a pro here is 2 symbols. There's actually 27 symbols are needed, right, to represent all the numerals. So 70 different symbols, are needed. That's definitely a con because you have to memorize 27 different things. Although it is the alphabet, so it's not terribly difficult. And certainly the Roman. So it has only 7 symbols, and with those 7 symbols, we can write lots of numbers. So I guess that's sort of a pro. It's definitely easy to use. Let's just say, right? It's easy to use, because it only has 7 symbols. And then a con. Well, if we want to represent large numbers, we're going to need more numerals, right? So if you take a look. Let's take a look at it real fast. If you take a look at this Roman numeral system here, right? So let's take a look at this Roman numeral system. What if we want to do 10,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000, right? We need to generate more symbols, right? And this list will go on indefinitely. So definitely a con is it's hard to represent. So we need maybe new numerals to represent large numbers. Alright, so this is my simple list of pros and cons. Of course, there are a lot of other pros and cons that you can come up with, but the point of this problem is just to try to get you guys to think about different types of numeral systems and why one might be better or worse than the other.